Hi, I'm Mary Taggart Sykes. I'm the Fort Worth Librarian Community Awareness Coordinator, and I'd like to welcome you to the Fort Worth Library, and more importantly, to the From Cowboy to Doughboy, North Texas in World War I, Mobilization, the Great War. Welcome to our exhibit. Welcome to our program. Our exhibit, as you can see, is right here in our gallery. It's also on the lower level in our display cases. If you go down the hall to our west wing, we have another part of our exhibit there. And when you first walked into the building, we have more of the exhibit in our glass display case. Thank you so much for coming, and I'd like to turn the program over to Jim Hodgson. But before I do that, I want to remind everybody, if you'd like to enjoy our World War I film series, please pick up one of these brochures. And this brochure right here will show you all of our programs for World War I and all of the library programs for adult, teen, and children. Thank you very much for coming, and I'd like to turn this over to Jim Hodgson.
Thank you, Mary. Bugler, to the colors. Please stand. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Present arms.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. Retire.
Clear it. About face.
Take your seats, please. Now I'm going to have Robert Williams, commander of the Military Order of the World Wars, is going to give the invocation.
God of our fathers, we're here today commemorating the 100th anniversary of our country's entry into the war in Europe, 1917, which has since been called World War I. We freely admit that we have not learned the lessons we were presented by what was first called the war to end all wars. Obviously, as history has shown, it wasn't. We recognize the many sacrifices made by our loved ones and fellow countrymen over 100 years ago. Be with us here today as we seek to refresh our memories of what it must have been like so long ago. Thank you, we pray for the blessings you have bestowed on us as a nation of free people. Be with us today and every day as we move forward while remembering the past. In your most holy and precious name, amen.
Amen.
And before we get started, I'd like to everybody give a round of applause to Sorta Sisters for the music they gave you before the program started. We'll be doing a little sing-along with them shortly, and then they'll be also providing some more music for us at the end of the program. We're here today to open the exposition From Cowboys to Doughboys. This is an ongoing part of the commemorations that we're doing here in Fort Worth. The First World War had an impact here on the city and the state and the country like no other event in history. Here in Fort Worth, the city that we live in today is largely because of the events that took place during the First World War. In 1914, we started supporting the war here in Texas with livestock from here in Fort Worth, from lumber and timber in the East Texas, from cotton and other parts of the state. So Texas is singular in that it entered the war long before the rest of the United States did, easily in 1914. Nearly half of all of the military installations that were built in the United States during the war period were here in Texas. And in 1916, during the Punitive Expedition, virtually every state militia that had been nationalized into the National Guard served here in Texas. So we are unique in the way the war affected this area. And here in this city, there was a combination of three things that changed Fort Worth forever and are with us today. Part of that, obviously, was the stockyards. That's what started it. Then we had the military influence, and starting in October of 1917, when oil was discovered in Ranger, the oil industry here blossomed. The city grew from about 70,000 people to over 140,000 people in as little as 6 months. It was just an impact that the city still sees the effect of today, but yet there is virtually no landmarks left of the First World War. So the exposition here today is going to take you on a journey to learn more about the city and Texas and how that war affected us. What you're going to see today is about the mobilization of the war. It's not necessarily much about what took place in France or in Europe or the aftermath of the war. What you're seeing today is the mobilization. It was the largest mobilization that the United States had ever gone through. So an exposition like this doesn't just happen. We've been working on this one for about 18 months. And there's a lot of people that it took to get this going. There's two things that takes place to make something like this happen. One is the energy and another is resources. And we've been very fortunate in that we've had some sponsors who've provided resources for us, and we've had a large conglomeration of organizations, well over 20 organizations that have come together to put this on. This has not been a commission by a state or a county or a large museum. This has been brought together by a number of organizations to do this, mostly by volunteers. So before we get into the recognition of the people who have made this exhibit happen, we're going to ask a few people to come up and do some readings. The first one, Dr. Dawn Youngblood, who is the archivist for Tarrant County. Dawn? Oh, here she is.
Thank you. There you go.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming, and I'd like to mention we have a fabulous exhibit on display at the Tarrant County Archives commemorating the centennial of World War I. And the featured items are from the Dalton Hoffman collection. Everyone is welcome to come take a tour. It's just 1 block away in the Tarrant County Plaza building. We are open Monday through Friday. Please call the archives or talk to me or Dalton for details. And the book I'm reading from today is from the Dalton Hoffman collection. I would like for Dalton Hoffman, who is here today, to please stand up and be recognized. In preparing for our commemoration, I have come across many a story that moves the heart. One example that will forever remain in my mind is that when the 36th Division marched from Camp Bowie to the embarkation train, fathers, mothers, sisters and brothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, and sweethearts, and loved ones of every description came to Fort Worth from all corners of Texas and Oklahoma. They didn't care how much it cost them, where they might sleep, or what they might eat. They knew that their boys were going into the thick of it, and that a sighting of their young man from a distance as he marched by in the crowd might be the last time they saw their loved one alive. Word, excuse me. Excuse me. Word filtered through Fort Worth that some families had spent every penny that they had getting to Fort Worth, so they had no funds to get home. Their generosity of the people of Fort Worth through the Red Cross and the YMCA jumped in and helped these families get back home. So let's give a hand 100 years later for the Red Cross, the YMCA, and the people of Fort Worth. Private Edwin H. Underhill of the 111th Ammunition Train was one of those that got on the train that day, then the ship, and on to the front lines in France. I will share with you a short preface which explains the poem and then read a segment of the poem. And again, this is from the Dalton Hoffman collection. This is a history of the 111th Ammunition Train, written entirely in verse, from the time they left Camp Bowie until their return. I was with the ammunition train continuously from start to finish, and so have been able to give the entire trip accurately with as many interesting and sometimes perilous adventures. This book also contains many other poems describing little incidents of camp life in France that every soldier has experienced in the American Expeditionary Forces, which I wrote while in France in the words and thoughts of the soldiers. It also contains several illustrations taken by the men showing points in France that are prominent in the experience of the train. Those who are interested in the 36th Division and the work done by them in France will be interested in this book, as it contains also some of the movements of the entire division. Our duty was to carry fodder to the guns. A sort of high-powered fodder Uncle Sam feeds to the Huns. The 61st FA Brigade are the boys who serve the meal. They have a course of HE shells that make the Germans squeal. Back with our own division again, we settle down in content, waiting for orders to move to the front from the GHQ to be sent. It was then that the world learned of the glorious work our infantry boys had done, of the smashing advance they made at Reims, and the beating they gave the Hun. Advance 3 kilos, their orders were, and there to hold the line. It was 23 kilos before they stopped. They were headed for the Rhine. New to them was the roar of guns, and new was the sight of death. But with the courage of veterans, they fought to their dying breath. Bravely, they faced that withering hail, the deadly machine gun fire, and many a boy from the sunny South went down in the mud and the mire. Gone from their face was that friendly smile the soldier has for all, and in its place was the smile of hate as they saw their comrades fall. Comrades who in days gone by had marched and slept by their side, pierced by the deadly German slugs, fell with a groan and died. No human power could stop that charge to the line where the Germans stood. The 36th was given its chance, and the 36th made good. The regulars called them rookies because they were new at the game. History will call them heroes, and well, they deserve the name. For of such are the men of the 36th, raised on the hills and the plains of Texas and Oklahoma, where men have red blood in their veins. And of such are the men of the AEF, all of them great and small, born 'neath the glorious stars and stripes, the grandest flag of them all. And now our work is completed. We have answered our country's call, given the best that is in us, made the world safe to live in for all. The Huns' vicious power is broken. France has its Alsace-Lorraine. So we're going home to America, to our mothers and sweethearts again. Thank you.
I've been told it's a little bit hard to hear back there. Is it better now? Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Next up, we have Tyler Alberts. Tyler is the director of the Military Museum of Fort Worth.
Hello, how are all y'all doing? I'm Tyler Alberts with the Military Museum of Fort Worth. I was one of the early people to help get this thing going, working with Jim, and I just want to take this opportunity to actually say that it is quite a big undertaking when you take on a project this big with a lot of different organizations, and it wouldn't have been possible without a lot of volunteers and people putting forth a lot of effort, but it really wouldn't be possible without leadership. And I'd like everybody to give Jim Hodgson a big hand of applause for the leadership in this, bringing this all together. Okay, I'm going to read a couple letters from a gentleman named Earl Bailey, who was born in Weatherford, but actually moved out to the Odessa area afterwards. He was drafted and brought back to Camp Bowie here to be inducted. And so 100 years later, I'm going to, of course, read it off of an iPhone. So, May 28, 1918. Hello, Mama and all. How are y'all? I guess you'll be surprised from me here. I would have liked to have stopped off, but didn't have time. I saw Papa there. I'm wore out. Today I've been vaccinated. My arm is awful sore. It is a sight to see the boys that have been unloaded here today. Saw several I knew today. Don't know just yet what I will do. May break horses. There are lots of long faces here today, but there aren't any use for a fella that just as well have a smile on. We will lay around here for 14 days before we can get into town or get trained or any. I saw my first airplanes today. I left all my junk at the ranch. If I break horses, John will send my saddle to me. They will be okay there until I see what I'm going to do. Well, it's late, so I'll say bye for now. Now, he'd become a cowboy before he got drafted into the Army. And, of course, like everybody that showed up at Camp Bowie, the first place they went was to the detention camp. Now, the detention camp wasn't a bad place. It's just where they brought everybody together to make sure they'd get quarantined before they put them into general population so that they'd cut down on the spread of disease. There was a lot of that going on in 17 and 18. A lot of these guys hadn't been inoculated against much. So a little bit later into his time at Camp Bowie, he reads a little, on June 15, 1918, he writes, "Hello, Mama and all. This leaves me well. I answered 4 letters a few days ago, but will write you again as I have moved. They've put me in the infantry. I don't know whether I can stand up to the training or not. I don't know a soul here. It sure is lonesome. Today is Sunday and we are laying around. I haven't got to go to town yet and don't know when I will. I will send my hat and boots home soon. Also will have my other things sent home. I will write John today, but he may not get to me for a week or 2. Don't worry if he's fussy about them. When come, be sure to hang saddle up out of the way so every kid who comes along won't be riding it. Please sun the bed, as I have saddles and blankets and some dirty hose in the bed as well. Tell Papa he can have those hose. I do not think this war will last over 6 months more, if what the papers say be true. Hope not, anyway. I will come home the first time I can get a furlough. Can't get one at present. Well, I don't know any news. My arm is getting well from the vaccinations. Has a big sore on it, but just sore much. I had 3 in the left arm. Some took one in the right arm. Others took the last one in. But I took all mine in one. I thought I'd rather lose one arm than both. Well, I will say goodbye for this time, as ever. Earl, Company C, 141st Infantry, Camp Bowie, Texas. Thank you.
And the next reading is going to be from Ben Guttery. Ben is a collection manager at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Tyler. That was fun. Thanks, Dawn. That was very enjoyable, too. This is actually a letter to the editor of the Atlantic Monthly, March 1919. From the U.S. Flying Field at Benbrook, Texas, comes another comment, breezy and pleasant. Carruthers Field, Benbrook, Texas, January 4th, 1919. Unlike the lady son in France, I'm not a hero of the war. All my campaigning has been done in the dust-filled air of Texas, instead of in the blood-mixed mud of France. For the past 6 months, I've been waging what we call the bloody Battle of Benbrook. Learning to fly and having learned, teaching others, though we say it in jesting satire on our part in the war, our bloody battle is not so far from the literal truth. Since the field was opened about a year ago, there have been over 40 men killed in crashes and probably 5 times that many wounded. Of the 16 men who came here with me, I learned to fly with, 4 are dead, 6 have crashed and been more or less seriously injured. These are not many, there are not many outfits which have contended for democracy on the shell-whipped fields of France that can show as high a percentage of killed or wounded as my class in the terrible Battle of Benbrook. In justice to the Air Service, however, be it said that few classes have such a tragic record, there is a remarkably small number of men killed in training these days. But what I started to say before I was so rudely interrupted by myself was that we fellows who never got across know we will not get and perhaps do not deserve much consideration where real soldiers are concerned. Still, we have done some work and have endured some inconveniences, if not hardships. It is my hope to get out of the Army soon. I like to fly, but I know a man can only do that so long. Someday he is likely to stop, most suddenly and messily. There are other sports that thrill me more than teaching the young idea of how to fly. In this game, it is seldom that we are allowed the privilege of making more than one serious mistake. If I should make one myself, well and good, but I do not like the thought of being an innocent sitter in the front seat when some raw rookie in the air makes his first and perhaps his last blunder. If he makes it, I have to rectify it before we hit something. Whether going slow or fast, or he may freeze the stick, or something else may happen, then his mistake becomes mine. And so far as funerals are concerned, I am in no hurry. I gave up my chance to fly in France for him. That is all I want to give up. Now that the military necessity is over, flyers are rapidly going over for his sake, and will always have will always have to endure the innocence of not having been in the real scrap. I have to content myself with the dubious glories of the bloody Battle of Benbrook. That is great enough sacrifice for me. And when I do get out of the Army, I want to go to some place where I can see the curling lines of foam in the sea, see ships crawl across the meeting point of sea and sky, and smell the pungent, salty, and air between the green, God-pointing fir trees, Seek some friends and soak up that salt air on the coast of Oregon. That was written by Reed Bain. Reed Bain was a noted sociologist. After the war, he taught his entire career at the University of Miami in Ohio. His pilot logbook is at the Fort Worth Aviation Museum on display, and he has a poignant part about his role in the war. Thank you.
Okay, a couple more thank yous, and we're going to get into a few recognitions. First, I'd like to thank Kim Factor, our official bugler. And the gentleman of the American Legion post in Haltom City for presenting the colors for us today. We've got a couple of other people that I want to just welcome here that made a special effort to be with us today. One is Gary Fickus, our county commissioner. Gary, thank you for being here today. And Steve Meyer is with us here. He's the chairman of the Tarrant County Historical Commission. The exhibit, as you're going to see it today, is not everything that we are doing. Our friends at Imagination Fort Worth have been working with some local people to provide curriculum material and also a question and answer for you today, if you picked that up when you came in. A large part of what we're going to be doing during this exhibition is working with the school children here locally so that they can get a feel and appreciation for some of the leadership that took place here, for some of the sacrifices, and for some of the people and the events that took place. So that's something that you don't see here today, but we do have elementary school kids scheduled to be coming in here throughout the next few months once school is back in session, not here during the summer. Again, we mentioned we're going to have a series of lectures that will take place in the Tandy Lecture Hall along with the movies. We have a series of movies that's playing in there on a continuous loop right now today that were done by the Texas Historic Commission. If you get an opportunity to view some of those, please do. We've also have some refreshments for you, some trench food. We also have some more modern food. It all looks wonderful. We appreciate that it was been done. We've got a bunch of donuts in there that were done with the Salvation Army 100-year recipe, and those are pretty good. I've tried those. I've been warned against the hardtack, so you might want to be careful with that one. But there's also some trench stew and some other things in there for you too once we finish up here. As I mentioned earlier, this wouldn't be complete, though, without the people who have been instrumental over the last 18 months to put this together. And so the first people I want to recognize are some of the folks who helped sponsor this program. Without them, we wouldn't have had the resources to do this. The first one is the Benny Keith Corporation. Is Craig Woodcock here today? Or Woodcook here today? We have a memento for each of the sponsors. The Benny Keith Corporation stood up for this from the very beginning. And if you're not familiar with Benny Keith's history in the First World War and what he did for the city of Fort Worth, I think you owe it to yourself to learn about that. He's the person who brought Camp Bowie here. He's the person who brought the 3 fields here. He's the person who really led the expansion of Fort Worth. And many of the other people have followed after him. So that's a very much an untold story, and we're going to do what we can over the next couple of years to make sure that he is recognized for more than just big white trucks around the North Texas. Is Glennis Robinson with us? Glennis, the Fort Worth Library has been a big sponsor of what we've done here. And Mary, if either you or Linda would come forward, please. Oh, no, that's a plaque for the library. Yeah, coin too, but a plaque for the library. No, over in the other, start on the left end, all the way on the left. There you go. If you,
where would you like?
Right out here in front, please. We've got plaques for the sponsors just as a memento for their participation and assistance with this. And if maybe we can just have you wait up here, and we'll bring the others up too. Jimmy DuBose with the DuBose Family Foundation. Is Jimmy here with us today? Kim Factor and Campbell Attorneys. Kim, if you'd come up, please. Linda Fash-Bush with Fash Foundation. Linda, if you'd come forward. And Bill Posednik, if you'd like to come up too, Bill. Andrew Bennett with the Fort Worth Convention and Visitors Bureau. Andrew, you're here, aren't you? Yes. Eric Lupfer with Humanities Texas. Ruby Held was a sponsor in memory of her father. Anita Robeson is in memory of her grandfather. Walker Friedman with the Mary Pottishman Lard Trust. Andy Taft of Rotary Club of Fort Worth. And Laney Duke with the Sid Richardson Foundation. We also have some in-kind sponsors, the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. Do we have anybody here with the Chamber today?
I'm actually with the
You're the Chamber, that's right, yeah. But the Convention and Visitors Bureau is also one of the sponsors. And the Military Museum of Fort Worth. Tyler, if you'd come back up. And we also have one for for ourselves for the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. If you would please show these folks your appreciation. They're the ones who provided the resources. Their name tags say sponsor on them, so if you see them this afternoon, please express your personal appreciation to them. Thank you, folks. Good. The next list is a little bit long. These are the people who have been on the committee. Some of them only served for a short period of time, others for a longer period of time. Involvement over 18 months can make a number of different things. So I'm going to read the names off, and if you'd please just come out in front. We have a certificate of appreciation for you, along with a pin that is the victory pin that the soldiers were provided with after the war, as well as our challenge coin. Alan Glasner. Alan helped with a number of our marketing pieces. For instance, the banner that you see up overhead is an original art piece by Alex Durer, and Alan helped us have that reproduced into a large size. Alan, just right up here in front of the stand, please. Bill Deal with the American Legion 12th District Commander. Alex Durer. Alex is a retired Marine pilot, and he's also a pilot with American Airlines, and he's the artist who did this print. Bob Adams, B-36 Peacemaker Museum. Don Pyatt with the B-36 Peacemaker Museum. Steve Myers with the Tarrant County Historical Commission. Sarah Rosenberg, Color Confections. Kim Factor, Ben Guttery, and Bill Morris with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. Brittany Spraggins with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. Tom Kemp with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum. Linda Barrett with the Fort Worth Central Library. Mary Sykes with the Fort Worth Central Library. Hollis Wiener with the Fort Worth Jewish Archives. Alan Davis on behalf of his father, Griff Murphy, who's Friends of the Royal Flying Corps Cemetery. Justin Jolly, History Professor, Messenger College. Cynthia Andrews, Imagination Fort Worth. Kira Johnson, Imagination Fort Worth. Lori Bevan, Imagination Fort Worth, and Susie Hyman, Imagination Fort Worth. Chad Matthews, Lone Star Film Society. Tyler Alberts, Military Museum of Fort Worth. Robert Williams, Military Order of the World Wars. Gene Tibbs, Public Relations Strategist. Johnny Robertson, Robertson Museum Projects. Anita Robeson, South Lake Historical Society. Dr. Dawn Youngblood, Tarrant County Archives. Lynn Spalding with the Tarrant County Archives. Tom Kellum with the Tarrant County College. Clara Holmes, Tarrant County Historical Commission. Doug Harmon, Tarrant County Historical Commission. Kent Knutson, Tarrant County Historical Commission. Robert Holmes with the Tarrant County Historical Commission. Joan McGettigan with the Texas Christian University. April Garner with the Texas Historic Commission. Lila Riccozzi with the Texas Historic Commission. Gail Hansen, Texas Historical and Ancestry Researchers. Mike Visconage with the Texas World War I Centennial Commemoration Group. Jenny Sweeney with the National Archives of Fort Worth. Betty Schenkel with the University of Texas Arlington Special Collections. Carol Davis, White Settlement Historical Society. And Eden Baird, our webmaster. These are the folks who put this exhibition for you, together for you. Okay, we've got a bit of a traffic jam as people get their certificates. Thank you, one and all, for all of the participation that you've had in this. And with that, we're going to ask the Sort of Sisters to come back up, and we're going to do a couple of sing-alongs, and then we're going to turn you loose on the hardtack. Let me tell them they got the words. You've got the words in your program, and we expect to hear this loud and strong.
When we get to the chorus. Jimmy was a soldier brave and bold. Katie was a maid with hair of gold. Like an act of fate, Kate was waiting at the gate, watching all the boys all dressed array. Kate smiled with a twinkle in her eye. Jim said, Mama, meet you by and by. That same night at 8, he was at the garden gate, stuttering the song to get Kate. Katie, beautiful Katie, you're the only wonderful girl that I adore. When the moon shines over the cowshed, I'll be waiting at the kitchen door. No one ever looked so nice and neat. No one could be just as cute and sweet. That's what Jimmy thought when the wedding ring he bought. Now he's off to France, awful to meet. Jimmy thought he'd like to take a chance to see if he could make the Kaiser dance, stepping to a tune all about the silvery moon. This is what they heard in far off France. Katie, beautiful Katie, you're the only wonderful girl that I adore. When the moon shines over the cowshed, I'll be waiting at the kitchen door. Katie, beautiful Katie, you're the only wonderful girl that I adore. When the moon shines over the cowshed, I'll be waiting at the kitchen door. And now if you all sing along with us, you're a grand old flag. You're a grand old flag, you're a hot flying flag, and forever in peace we wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every
Thank you, ladies. Okay, we're going to turn you loose on everything. We appreciate you being here today. We hope you've had a little bit of fun. We hope you learned something today. And please enjoy the movies, enjoy the refreshments. Let me know how the hardtack works out. And for the sponsors, Alex Durr has a number of prints of his artwork over at the table behind us over here. So each of the sponsors, if you'd stop by, he has a print for you, signed print. We do have a few extras if some of you would like a copy of that print. But we also have some rating cards as you go out the door, just to the right. We would appreciate your responses. We'd like to know what you think about the exhibition and the program here today. And don't forget, the West Wing has the home front, and out front in the glass cases there's more to see, as well as downstairs. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support.